going to discuss to you how to avoid plagiarism. So this is very important, especially when we are having our assignments or requirements such as researches, essay, and research, and many more. So now let us define what is plagiarism. Plagiarism is a term which is incapable of accurate definition across the university sector. The term has been used to address a wide range of acts of poor academic practice, ranging from intentional copying of the work of others to inadvertent or sloppy scholarship which fails to accord with accepted academic practice. That is according to Stunk 2016. Another comments about plagiarism. Of the various kinds of academic misconduct, plagiarism remains one of the most problematic student behaviors and has been a popular research focus. Plagiarism is a form of academic dishonesty defined as copying someone else's ideas or words and attempting to present such work without properly citing the original sources. Now let us discuss how to avoid plagiarism. So these are the practical steps. Number 1, write from scratch. One of the most important ways to avoid plagiarism is by writing a research paper from scratch. Writing from scratch means that your research paper will be written from beginning to end. So it's very important to make a draft before you proceed to your final paper, because as what they say, nobody is perfect. So there's no harm in repeating or in checking your work to avoid plagiarism. Then the writing process will include, so here are some practical process in writing your draft. Brainstorming for ideas, conducting research, creating your outline, writing your first draft, and revising and proofreading your paper a few times until you produce the final copy. This means that you are not to take someone else's work without giving due credit or pass off an old paper as new one. Next, another way to write a paper without plagiarizing is learning the difference between quoting and paraphrasing. Writing a research paper often involves integrating the information from sources, and such information usually comes in the form of a direct quote. Regardless of the information you're including, you need to enclose them in quotation marks. Quotation marks signal to the reader the lines are not yours but rather from your source. The usual limit for direct quotes is 10 to 20% of the word count. Also, unless the quote is so clear, well constructed, and illuminating that there's no other way to say it. Paraphrase the quote in your own words. Don't forget to include the correct in-text citation for every quote you include. The third one, paraphrase and summarize. Another good way to prevent plagiarism is by paraphrasing and summarizing. While the two terms are often used interchangeably, they are actually different and refer to distinct ways of conveying information from sources. Paraphrasing is basically restating something in your own words. On the other hand, summarizing requires restating something in your own words while focusing on the key points of the source. Of course, anything you paraphrase or summarize must be accompanied by a citation. Next, provide complete citations. So while quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing are important tools for integrating information from your sources while avoiding plagiarism, equally important is accompanying each of these with a citation. Every time you quote a line from your source, paraphrase a statement, or summarize your work, you need to include an in-text citation. Without an in-text citation, your reader has no way of knowing if what you're saying is your own idea or one that you borrowed. There are various citation styles used in schools. So the most common ones are the Modern Language Association or MLA style, the American Psychological Association or the APA style. the Chicago Manual of Style and the Harvard Style. Knowing the basics of these style is a vital part of writing a research paper. Keeping your paper's content documented is a great way to avoid plagiarism. Next, know when to cite. While research papers, especially dissertations, almost always include information from sources. It is important to know that not all information has to be cited. After all, if you're going to attribute every detail you include to some source, your paper will be filled with so many citations that it will be difficult to read. Next, keep tabs on your sources. Keeping tabs on your sources is important to prevent plagiarizing the work of others. When you're deep in the process of writing, you might choose to write the paper in its entirety and then just insert the citations later. But this can become problematic. First, you might lose track of the parts that are yours and the parts that come from your sources. Second, you might forget which parts come from which sources and thus attribute information to different sources. 7, know the different types of plagiarism. So, there are different types of plagiarism. We have direct plagiarism, failing to credit, mosaic plagiarism, auto-plagiarism. So, first, the direct plagiarism, directly copying someone else's work without changing anything and giving due credit. Second, failing to credit, taking information and ideas from others' works without crediting the sources. Then mosaic plagiarism, partially paraphrasing the works of others without crediting sources, thus resulting in a mix of original and copied parts. Lastly, auto-plagiarism, passing off a previously submitted and marked work as new output. The last one, use a plagiarism checker. Now, if you write your paper from scratch and use appropriate citation methods, your paper will unlikely show any similarities with the works of others. Exceptions, of course, are direct quotes, which are not considered plagiarism if they are enclosed in quotations and have in-text citations. Also not included as plagiarism are full entries on your references page as well as title pages, declaration forms, or any part of the document that comes from templates. Examples of this are Save, Assign, and Turn It In, which are both online programs capable of detecting plagiarism. Next, do not buy research papers online. Buying a research paper from an online store can be very risky. Many websites sell research papers to students like you, like us. These websites may present you with sweet deals like promising original papers or high grades for very little cost. But in most cases, these research papers have been used before. Companies recycle these papers and puts you at risk of being flagged by your school for plagiarism. Take note, do not buy a research paper. The number 10, seek advice from your professor. Seeking advice from your professor can help you avoid plagiarism. While the main responsibility of professor is to teach students, they are also there to guide students in other areas, including providing help with writing research papers. Professors understand that writing can be difficult, and thus, most of the time, they are happy to help students avoid plagiarism by giving tips. So in conclusion, while writing research paper is challenging, there is no excuse for submitting plagiarized work. Writing research paper is not just for acquiring knowledge and developing writing skills. It is also for enhancing your capacity to critically think, analyze, and synthesize. I guess that would be all. Thank you.